Minister Shastny joins heads of Caricom for meeting in St. Kitts. Estonia and Saint Lucia continue discussions on ICT and e-government. And Caricom releases statement on escalating tensions in Venezuela. Join us as we take a look at regional cooperation at work in the Prime Minister's weekly diary. Prime Minister Honorable Alan Shastny was focused on regional matters this week as he arrived in St. Kitts and Nevis on Monday to attend the 30th intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community. Chairman of the conference, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis Honorable Timothy Harris, immediate past Chairman, Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and Secretary General of the Community, Ambassador Owen LaRocque, addressed the opening session. Ambassador LaRocque highlighted that the meeting would focus on a variety of issues, including the situation in Venezuela.
Our heads of government have had 2 emergency meetings earlier this year to find a way forward in that regard. We are acutely aware of the consequences of any alternative solution, and with our like-minded partners have stressed the need for an internal and meaningful dialogue without which the situation could become disastrous. The community maintains that the solution must come from among the Venezuelan people and abides by the internationally recognized and accepted principles of non-interference, non-intervention in the affairs of states, respect for sovereignty, adherence to the rule of law, and respect for human rights and democracy.
Other pressing issues discussed was the need to advance the progress already achieved with regard to the Caricom Single Market and Economy, CSME, and closer regional unity in order to respond strategically and decisively to a changing global environment. During the meeting, the heads of government met in special session on transportation, in keeping with their quest to deliver adequate, fair, competitive, efficient transportation services at affordable costs. Heads of government recalled that the Multilateral Air Services Agreement, MASA, had been opened for signature in February 2018 and acknowledged that assent by all member states to MASA would give effect to the community becoming a liberalized environment for Caricom air carriers. St. Lucia had signed onto that agreement last year, and those member states which had not done so were urged to sign and ratify the agreement. According to a Caricom communiqué, heads of government also agreed that member states would undertake a review of their domestic taxes and other charges related to the air transportation sector with a view to simplifying and streamlining the relevant tax structures and eliminating taxes which have a negative effect on the demand for and provision of air transportation services. With respect to maritime travel, heads of government agreed to establish a joint private and public sector team to review the findings and recommendations of reports on a regional ferry service. With regard to the issue of the blacklisting of Caricom member states by the European Union, heads of government explained that the EU's approach to tax good governance was viewed as an infringement of their sovereignty and harmful to the future of a key economic sector in Caricom without providing any empirical evidence of instances of tax avoidance. Heads of government agreed that the community's strategy against blacklisting will be multidimensional and targeted to both the immediate protection of member states' sovereignty and their future relations with Europe. Heads of government have accordingly requested the EU cease from blacklisting Caricom states, which have already made commitments to reform their tax structures in good faith. Heads of government have also proposed that the EU adopt a more collaborative approach which would allow member states to conduct the required impact and sensitivity analyses to determine how to further align their tax regimes with global standards for tax transparency and governance.
Let me note and commend Prime Minister Shastny of St. Lucia for taking on another international challenge on behalf of us all. Last week, he led a delegation which made our case forcefully to the European Union and its agencies with respect to the labeling of our countries as non-cooperative tax jurisdictions. That practice is being followed by individual member states of the EU. The continuous addition of onerous requirements to comply with new regulations is tantamount to cruel and unusual punishment. The EU and its member states are going well beyond the regulations and requirements of the OECD, of which they are a part and with which our countries are largely compliant. Further, the selective application of the strictures does not apply to everyone and has a distinct bias.
As the meeting came to a close, Caricom made a clear statement on the situation in Venezuela, stating that the Caribbean community is deeply concerned by the recent further escalation of tensions. Caricom has stated that the people of Venezuela must be allowed to decide their own future in accordance with the principles of the United Nations Charter: non-intervention, non-interference, prohibition of the threat or use of force, respect for the rule of law, human rights, and democracy. As Caricom has ceaselessly advocated for this objective to be attained, there has to be a meaningful and internal dialogue between the contending parties. This dialogue must determine how best the crisis can be resolved within the confines of the Constitution and the rule of law, whether by referendum, elections, or any other agreed mechanism. Pending this, Caricom stated, there must be a commitment to the delivery of humanitarian aid in the manner that is not politicized, but which uses United Nations mechanisms that have been used over the years for the impartial and effective delivery of humanitarian relief. Prime Minister Shasney also held bilateral discussions with special guests of the meeting, Her Excellency the President of Estonia, Kersti Kaljulaid. The Prime Minister had previously met in May last year in Estonia with the President to discuss how the day-to-day activities of residents can be made significantly more convenient and cost-reduced with the help of government e-services and digital solutions. At the meeting, the Prime Minister and President committed to continuing to exploring areas of cooperation in information and communications technologies and e-government. For her part, the President outlined the development of her country as a digital nation, emphasizing its value to economic growth and development, which could be an example for smaller countries. Heads of government agreed on the need for cooperation initiatives between Caricom and the government of Estonia in order to advance the digital development of the community and to promote the collective approach to the Caricom Single Market ICT space and the Caricom Digital Agenda 2025 initiative. For more information on the Caricom meeting, please visit caricom.org. That was a recap of the Prime Minister's Week at Caricom. Join us next week for more insight into the Prime Minister's Weekly Diary.